capitalist feel for the landed proprietor, who appears to him as a useless encumbrance, a superfluity in the otherwise harmonious whole of the bourgeois production. Rent, says Marx, results from the social relations in which exploitation is carried on. It cannot result from the nature, more or less fixed, more or less durable, of land. Rent proceeds from society and not from the soil." End quote. The criticism of Proudhon's appreciation of gold and silver as the first manifestation of this theory of constituted value should be interesting reading to those admirers of the French anarchists who yet profess their profound detestation of money and its function. So too should his declaration against strikes and combinations of workmen. In this we see once more how extremes meet. This declaration of Proudhon's would not be out of place in the organ of the Liberty and Property Defense League. In this matter of trade union combination, Marx was scarcely accurate in his perception of its development. He clearly did not foresee that the great English trade unions would become fossilized, as it were, and that instead of being a revolutionary force, they would become a reactionary mass opposing the progress of a mere proletarian outside their ranks, as they have done. With the spread of socialist ideas among them, however, their exclusive character is being modified, and they may even yet take that place in the revolutionary working class movement which Marx anticipated they would occupy. Given this change of attitude, the development must inevitably be along the lines he predicted. We are seeing, quote, "in face of constantly united capital, the maintenance of the association becoming more important and necessary for them than the maintenance of wages," end quote, and further, that the combinations of capital are forcing the trade unions to that point where association takes a political character. It is scarcely necessary to point out that, in this work written in 1847, some words have a meaning quite other than that which they bear today. Thus, for instance, the words socialists and socialism, where they occur, refer to the utopians who formulated theories of a social system independent of the industrial evolution, and to these theories themselves. In most cases, the numerous quotations have been verified and reproduced in the original. In some instances, however, they are summaries rather than the quotations, and appear as translated. A translation is necessarily an imperfect presentation of the thoughts, ideas, and conclusions of the author. In this work I have endeavored to adhere as closely as possible to the form and letter, as well as to the spirit of the original, and to this the indulgent reader is asked to ascribe such faults of language as would otherwise merit his censure. H. Quelch. Preface. The present work was written in the winter of 1846 to 1847, at a time when Marx had just elucidated the principles of his new historical and economic theory. Footnote. La Misère de la Philosophie, written in French, was published in 1847 in Paris by A. Frank, 69, Rue Richelieu, and in Brussels by C. G. Vogler, 2 Petit Rue de la Madeleine. It was translated into German by E. Bernstein and Karl Kautsky, and published in 1892 by the Social Democratic Party, together with this preface by Engels. Marx's own copy of the work, which, as well as his other books, were given by his two daughters, Laura and Eleanor, to the German Social Democratic Party, to form the basis of a library for the party, bear some corrections from the hand of the author. They have been reproduced in this edition. Note by editor. The Système des Contradictions économiques ou Philosophie de la Misère of Proudhon, which had just appeared, gave him the opportunity of developing his principles in opposing them to the ideas of the man who from them was to take a preponderating place among the French socialists of his epoch. From the moment when both of them at Paris had lengthily discussed economic questions together, often for whole nights at a stretch, their tendency had been to drift further and further apart. Proudhon's book showed that there was already an impassable gulf between them. To keep silence was no longer possible. Marx demonstrates in this reply the irreparable rupture which had taken place. The summary of Marx's judgment of Proudhon is expressed in the article reproduced as an appendix to this work, which first appeared in the Sozialdemokrat of Berlin, numbers 16, 17, and 18. It was the only article Marx ever wrote for that journal. The efforts of